CardGamesTV Podcast. The different stages of combat that, or strategies, I should say, that I'm currently in. Right now, I am trying to. Well, the stage I'm in right now is the no hand, no defense stage. Some people will consider that, will be like, oh, that's essentially hand control, and it is. It is hand control in a way, but it's more hand control in a single turn as opposed to hand control over a course of time. So instead of trying to try to take cards out of your opponent's hand, every turn, it's about taking their whole hand away at one shot. So, for example, obviously most people know about Android 17 turning the tides. That automatically can get rid of your opponent's hand. Then we have Perfect Force Cell. They can reduce your opponent's hand size down to 3 cards. There used to be a 7-drop Gogeta that can do the same thing, reduce your opponent's hand size down to 3. But that's banned. But there is an 8-drop Gogeta that at the end of your opponent's turn does, reduces their hand size down to 3. So we still have a Gogeta that can reduce our opponent's hand size. So that's still an option, something I'm experimenting with. So there's that. But, ideally you want to reduce your opponent's hand size on your turn, especially because you want to take advantage of it to go for game. So being able to turn off your opponent's defense. I mean, anything that can help you prevent your opponent from being able to negate an out combo or just combo in general, right, is ideally what you want to do in that strategy or phase of gameplay, where you're trying to find a way to get to that point where your opponent can't negate, can't out combo. So you're looking for essentially what I call UAs. Unstoppable attackers. You want to do stuff and play stuff that gives you the ability to pretty much bypass your opponent's defensive capabilities, their negates, their combo power, right? So you can get to their life, right? So you can deal the killing blow, right, and win the game. The goal is to win the game. So obviously you're supposed to try to find ways to win the game. And this is something that I do. This is a service, as a word, right, that I provide to the community, where I try to find ways to do things, right? Try to find ways to play certain cards. Because sometimes there's some cards like Android 17 turn tide, for example, that are really good. Like, that's a powerful card with a powerful effect. And if you can play it, you can win with it. So why wouldn't you put time and effort to try to, make it work, right? Make it useful. There's a reason why they gave it a high cost. And they didn't make it where it's easy to cheat out, right? They didn't give it its own way of getting itself out sooner, right? It doesn't have like EX Evolve or anything like that, so it doesn't have a cheaper way to come out. You're going to have to hard cast it for 7, and I doubt there's any other way to play it for free through any other means or effects. So with that, so that's why it's like you want to find a way to ramp up, right? Find a way to get to the point where you can afford 7 energies and be able to play. So there's a couple leaders for that, a couple cards you can put in your main deck that can help you ramp up your energy. So there's strategies out there to ramp just so you can play the card, because it's a really good effect and it's worth using, right? Especially if the goal is to win the game. And what's really important, sometimes some people forget, is the idea is to have the unfair advantage. You want to have the advantage so that we can win. If you don't want to win, right, and you want to just have fun and just have a nice back and forth for your opponent, then yeah, do whatever you want. Play fair, play balance, whatever you want to call it, right? But realistically, especially if you're a competitive player, it only makes sense that your goal is to find the shortest route from point A to point B, right? The shortest route, right? From you, the shortest route to your victory, right? To winning. So your goal should be to win. So you should built your deck to do that, you should play and gain experience and knowledge to do that, to achieve that goal. So that's where the strategies come in. That's where, right now, like I said, I'm in the no hand, no defense phase. And then the other phases will be the aggro burn phase. You could just skip out the aggro part and just basic gameplay, do enough damage to get your opponent down to a burnable kill range. But aggro burn is the fact that you're speeding up the damage process. You're trying to get them down to a good life point, 2 or 1 life typically. There's a lot of cards that deal 1 damage, so ideally you want to get them down to 1, so that way those cards can be viable. But there are some cards that can deal 2 damage, so 2 is an option. Or one of the things is, if you get your opponent down to 2 life, right? And then you use your leader or unison, whatever you have in play, and try to get them down to 1, or try to do like some double strike attack, and your opponent's like, nope, I'll negate it with a spark and negate or something, and then they'll end up at 1 life. So then now you're able to drop your burn card to burn your opponent. So there's that phase. Then there's the mill out phase or strategy, right, where the goal is to get your opponent to the point where they run out of cards from their deck. A lot of players tend to draw a lot, so you're obviously going to take advantage of that, take advantage of them drawing, maybe even play a couple cards to help them draw more. Then, of course, play some cards to help them make them mill. I like the idea of using a 1-drop Gowasu, something manipulator, because of the fact that it lets me manipulate the top 3 cards of my opponent's deck. So that way they draw what I want them to draw, as opposed to drawing what, ideally they want to draw. So I control their draws, and then, like I said, I will make them mill, I will make them draw, I will manipulate their draw. So I do a lot of things that has to do with drawing, or anything that has to do with my opponent's deck. That way, I can get to the point where late game, they'll run out of cards in their deck. Obviously, you have to incorporate stuff, defensive cards, board wipes, things of that nature. Ideally, board wipes that will send the cards to the drop or maybe to the warp. You don't want anything in the bottom decks, because that's counterproductive. You definitely don't want board wipes that essentially is just bouncing battle cards back to your opponent's hand, because again, counterproductive. It's just a temporary thing. They'll just reestablish the board again, right? They'll just put those cards back down, or use it as combo power. So you want to find alternative ways to deal with the cards. You want to make sure you have a strong defense, reliable defense, preferably a reusable defense, so you can keep your opponent at bay, but also try to incorporate some hand control if you can, because again, you're controlling their drawing, so they're not drawing anything good. But if they already have some good stuff in their hand already, then that will present a problem. So you want to get rid of the good cards from their hands. So get rid of good cards from their hands, and then make it where they only draw essentially bad cards, right? Ideally, you want to get rid of any battle cards from their hands, because battle cards is what they attack you with, right? So you want to get rid of battle cards. You want to make sure they don't draw battle cards. So those are the two things you want to focus on, is dealing with battle cards before they even hit the field, and make it hard for them to hit the field. But if they do hit the field, then get rid of them. That's where the board wipes come in. So then, what's the other strategy? So there's mill out, there's aggro burn, there's the no hand or no defense strategy. I forgot what the other ones were. there was at least 1 or 2 more that I forgot. I don't know, I have it written down. Let's see. All right, I'm back. Looked at my notes. Yeah, so essentially one more. There is technically another one, but the fourth one is 30k OTK, right? That's the idea of going, not only going tall, with 30k plus attack power, but also going wide. That way, but because you're going tall, that puts your opponent in a position where they have to, where it'll be hard for them to out-combo the attack. Not impossible to out-combo one attack, but it will be virtually impossible to out-combo every one of your attacks. So let's say you play 8 30k battle cards, right? More likely they'll be skillless, especially the way I play. So it'll be 8 30k skillless battle cards. That means even if your opponent's awakened, and so that means your opponent's leader is 15k, in order to out-combo each of these 30k attacks, your opponent's going to need 20 combo power per each attack, right? And they're more likely, by the time you do this, they're more likely in a position where they only have 2 life, which means you only need 2 attacks to go through anyway. Out of all the 8 attacks, plus leader and maybe a Unison, right? So that'll be 8, 9, 10. That's about 10 attacks. You only need 2 to get through. But again, you're swinging mainly with the 30k battle cards, which puts your opponent in a position where they need 2 super combos, right? Or 2 or 4 5k combo in order to out combo each and every one of your attacks, and that's mathematically difficult, right? Because let's say they use 5k, so 5k for the attacks, so then they'll need 4 5ks per each attack, so 4 times 8, that's 36. So they're going to need 36 cards that are 5k combo power each to try to stop all 8 of those attacks. So the likelihood of your opponent having 36 cards that are 5k combo power for free, right, to even stop all those attacks. And that's not to mention the fact that they still have to deal with a leader and possibly a Unison swing. And maybe there's an overwhelm, so that's another possibility. So then there's potential 3 more attacks after the first 8 attacks, right? So the mathematical likelihood of being able to out combo that is very difficult. Now, granted, there's stuff like Violent Rays and Baby Hatchet and stuff like that, and Pan, right? There are cards that could be used to help in that situation. If you got it, you got it. But if you don't got it, well, then you're in a situation where comboing is the only defense you have, and you don't have enough, right? It'll be too hard to have enough because of the whole, not only are we going wide, so we have multiple attacks you got to try to stop, we're also going tall. So the 30k OTK strategy is, because your opponent could literally have 8 life, right? And doubtful they're going to have enough cards to out combo every attack. So more likely you're going to, out of the 10 potential attacks you have, there's likelihood that a lot of those attacks are going to get through. You might get 9 you probably just get 8, right? Out of the 10 potential attacks, maybe 8 of them will go through. Because I've had a scenario when I did that strategy, just by bringing back the 30k skillless battle cards, was enough for my opponent to scoop. They didn't even want to bother, didn't even want to try. They just accepted the defeat right there and then. So that's why I haven't done that strategy in such a long time. Like, I still built some decks using the strategy. I just haven't done that strategy in such a long time, because essentially once you do it, it's like, on average, most people, just scoop. Especially, but it'd be interesting to see how it works out now, considering the fact that we have, free negates and stuff like that, right? Not just Baby Hatchet. We have other stuff. We have blocker negates that could be useful in that scenario. We got stuff like Violent Rays and whatnot. So it just depends on the situation. But more often than not, more likely, once you pull off the strategy of playing multiple 30k battle cards, right, in a single turn, more likely your opponent's tapped out. They got no blockers. Their hand size is probably low or small, and that's why you played a whole bunch of 30Ks, because you're trying to take advantage of that situation. Whereas like they're going to need a floodgate negate, or they're going to need multiple negates, which they're probably not going to have. They're not going to have enough free negates, right? Left and right, especially the free negates are not really free. They're energy free, but they're not life free. And remember, the whole idea of playing the negates is to stop the attacks dealing you damage to your life, but you're taking life in order to play the cards for free, essentially, right? So that's kind of productive. So you're ending up killing yourself regardless. So it's kind of pointless to try to use free negates, unless it's Baby Hatchet, then you all good. Unless it's what's her name, Pan, then you're good, right? There's a couple other cards that can do similarly what they can do, but your opponent has to have it, right? And most of these cards are one-ofs, right? They're just one copy per deck, so the likelihood of your opponent having it is slim. Not impossible, we know that, but it's slim. And if you've been playing your cards right, you've been playing the game right, your opponent should be at a disadvantage, so that way when you do that strategy, it's just like, okay, you're doing the most. Yep, this is overkill. That concept, right? So that's essentially what 30K OTK is. It's just basically overkill. It's overwhelming your opponent's defensive capabilities. They won't have enough negates, right? Or they won't have enough combo power to stop your attacks. So going tall and wide at the same time is, that the strategy for that. So that's that phase. Obviously, I already utilized and played a lot of those phases. They were fun, but right now I'm on the no hand, no defense phase. So that's where the 17 turn ties come in. The newest thing I'm playing with is, well, not new, but per se, but it's like, because for me, 7-drop Zeno, well, there's the chain Zeno combo, obviously, which is the one I'm going to be using more now, but it's, I used to just, he was my Android 17 before Android 17. He was my Gogeta 7, I think before Gogeta 7 was even a thing, or at least afterwards. The point is that, I do own the 7-drop Gogeta and the 8-drop, of course, and Perfect Force. So obviously I have these cards, which is why I'm talking about using them for the no hand, no defense strategy. There are some other cards that have similar effects that I'm, looking into. So I'll try to, get them all and try them out and put out, deck profiles and whatnot, and some gameplay. I'll try to get some gameplays showcasing these strategies in action. And but yeah, that's but like I was saying, that was my Zeno. That was my Turning Tides before Turning Tides was a thing. But then Turning Tides became a thing, and I'm like, that boy good. Same cost, and he's double the power, and he has deflect, which makes him better than the 7-drop Zeno, which is ironic, right? Why doesn't Zeno have deflect? Whatever. I guess it was created before deflect was needed, because counterplays weren't that prevalent, but they are now. And then he has the crit, right? So that's the interesting thing. So I'm trying to come up with ways to utilize it. It's not enough to just drop the Cell Zeno through the trunks, chain attack trunks play, but also being able to accompany it with extra attackers to help facilitate the winning. So working on a couple of stuff with the right cards in play. So if I have the right leader, the right Unison, I can reduce my opponent's hand size down to 3, because chain attack Zeno will cause us to put our hand back in the deck, shuffle, and then draw 5 new cards. So both me and my opponent will have 5 cards. The idea is to use, hopefully, I'm thinking of using Raditz or some leader that can nerf my opponent's, rip a card out of my opponent's hand. Use a Unison that can rip another card out of my opponent's hand, right? Maybe even incorporate Rebrand if I can set it up right, and rip 2 more cards, right? So a potential of 4 cards ripped out of my opponent's hand. But I might not need to go that far. Just just 1 or 2 cards out of my opponent's hand probably be enough to give me the advantage in that situation, especially if I rip 1 or 2 cards out their hands and then I draw 1 or 2 cards afterwards, so then mathematically my hand size will be way bigger than theirs, and that will make the difference between winning and losing, right? And if I have super combos, for those who like to mention that and use that, it's like, all right, if you got super combos, even better, right? And then just go all in, and the chance of you winning through that is a lot higher than because you got the bigger hand size than they do. Another possibility, right, would be to Zeno, rip their hand, right? Reduce their hand down to 5, not rip, but reduce it to 5, and then use like Calamity, Saiyan Calamity, and -2, and look at your opponent's hand and rip out a battle card. I think a battle card 25k or less, I think it was, or 20k or less, something like that, and rip out a battle card, like a super combo or something similar, or Topo or something like that. Oceanus, you get the idea. Just rip out a card out their hand. Now you know what's in their hand, and you ripped out a card in the hand. So now they have 4 cards in hand, and now you know what's in their hand. So if you can go for game right there and then or not. If you have the advantage or not. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking into, being able to combine a couple cards like that. And like I said, if the leader has the ability to rip a card from my opponent's hand, even better. If I am using a super combo, for example, and it's Android 18 Bionic Blitz, that can rip out another card. So you see, I'm trying to combine cards that can help me, take advantage of my opponents having a smaller hand size, just because I dropped the 7-drop Zeno. So that's an example. Something similar is like if I if I reduce my opponent's hand size by down to 3 by playing Cell in my Cell deck, because I'm still waiting for the cards to come in. I already have all the old Cell cards. I just need the new leader and the extra card. And I already have the Unisons, all that good stuff to build my deck. Also, I have the super combo, so I have Android 18 to add to the strategy to further help me reduce my opponent's hand size drastically, to less than 3. I should be able to just rip out all 3 cards just with the Unison alone and burn my opponent for 1. And then when I swing, I can Android 18 and rip out whatever card they added to their hand from my burn effect, and then they'll be defenseless, right? The no hand, no defense strategy, and then just get my 30k double strike Cell, perfect 4 Cell to go through and win me the game. Because my opponent should have 2 or less life by that moment. Which is why when it comes to that no hand strategy, I want to incorporate a little bit of aggro. So it's similar. I mean, pretty much. All the strategies except the mill strategy, they all kind of rely on the idea that you want to try to deal as much damage as you can, as quickly as you can, whether you by aggroing or just by basic gameplay. Just try to get as many hits in as possible, and then when your opponent's really low on life, finish them off. Ideally, what would be cool would be to finish your opponent off when they're at high life. So the sooner you can perform the strategy, and you can take them from whatever, like let's say 6 life to 0, even better. I know some leaders have the ability to, when they awaken or to self-awaken, they'll reduce their life in order to self-awaken, which you can take advantage of. So that right there makes your life easier. Because I had an opponent where he reduces life down to 6 when he awakens. So he awakens and he reduces himself down to 6, and it's like, all I need to do is get you down to either 4 or 3 life, and I can I can win with my Man on a Mission Android 17 combo. So since you brought yourself down to 6, all I need to do is deal you 2 to 3 damage. So you're making my job easy, right? Making it easier for me to set you up for game. Even if you're at 5 life, I can take you down from 5 to 0 with the combo. But ideally, to make it easier and require me to do less work, as it were, I would ideally want you to be at 3 or less life. 3 or less, ideally. Because if I have like a double strike, like Majin Buu Unison, right, and then I drop Turning the Tides, or if I man on a mission first, then drop Turning the Tides, right there, I have all I need. If you add 3 life, bang, I swing with Turning Tides, I swing with something that's double strike, and game. Right, the idea is just to get you down to double strike range, basically. That's why incorporating a lot of double strikes into your decks is, important. Dual attacks if you can, because that helps you bypass negates. Typically, helps you against Hatchiyak Leader, obviously, among other reasons to use something that can attack more than once, right? Because sometimes you don't want to play 2 battle cards to try to get 2 attacks off. You rather play 1 battle card to try to get 2 attacks off, right? And save energy for defense. That way you can go on the offense, but still keep your defenses up. So that's why one of the many reasons why you ideally want to have dual attackers or triple attackers, or just have multiple attacks off of 1 card. The more attacks you can get, or the more damage you can deal off of a card, the better. Like triple strike, quadruple strike, shit like that. Try to incorporate them if you can, wherever you can. Overwhelm, obviously. Free bodies, right? Free play is always good, right? So want to take advantage of any free play you have access to. That's where the Man on Mission comes into play, because he works great with Turning the Tides, because I play Man on Mission first, then I drop Turning the Tides, and then now I have 2 attackers that do up to 3 damage, and they're crit damage. So if my opponent happens to have 4 life, okay, I can deal them 3 crit damage and then swing with the leader and finish them off, right? And not worry about like my opponent out comboing my leader swing or something. So that's why, when you think of a strategy like that and keep, rethinking like how you can improve it, what's the ideal situations, right? The perfect storm, then, you see the possibilities. You definitely don't want to limit yourself to like, the strategy only works when they're at 2 life. So if I don't get them to 2 life, this strategy will never work. You always want to at least try to find a way to make it where even if they have high life, you can still, win. So try. You always try to prove whatever idea or strategy you have. And that's why I'm mentioning the different strategies that I use. And, the current strategy I'm on is the whole, no hand, no defense, or if you want to call it the Turning the Tide strategy, then yeah, I'm on the Turning the Tide strategy. So I'm trying to find as many Turning the Tides as I can in different colors, so that way I can, have different types of decks builds that utilize the strategy. I keep mentioning Turning the Tides for a reason, right? There's some people who would like it to get banned. There's a lot of people who agree that it should get banned, and I can understand. I wouldn't want them to, but I get it. Fair enough. That boy good, too good, right? Because of him, we won the Tournament of Power, right? He saved the multiverse or universe or whatever you want to call it, right? So that boy good. All hail 17, right? So he put in work, and it's understandable if Bandai decides to ban him. So obviously, I want to find some alternatives. Right now, especially with the Cell deck, the Ultimate deck, I wouldn't be too surprised if people are trying to make that a thing. So, playing the Cell deck, people are going to be playing it, and that's going to be, the new thing that most players are going to be trying to do, is try to do the whole, no hand thing. Try to rip their opponent's hand so that way they can go to game. So that would be a lot of what people are trying to rush to. There's going to be people playing the Zeno strategy. That's why it's so funny that I was already going into this, play style, and then now everybody else doing it, right? Like I just saw Crossworld TCG's video yesterday about the chain attack Trunks Zeno combo, and it's like, damn, this Sunday, before I went to locals to go play my, Android 17 Turning the Tide as a monster deck, I pulled out my chain attack Trunks and Zeno cards, so I can utilize it to do a chain attack trunks Zeno Zamasu build, so that way I can get a similar result to Android 17 turning its highs, but it'll be faster because it'll be sooner. Take advantage of red, because red is really good at aggro. So take advantage of red's aggro status and knock my opponent down to low life, so that way I can do the whole chain attack trunks thing and finish my opponent off. So just basically another way of achieving pretty much the same goal is just to get my opponent's life low enough so I can finish them off in a single shot. I'll probably still try to use like a ramp strategy, obviously, just to try to facilitate something extra, or at least just be able to do the chain attack turn sooner than later, so that way I can take advantage of that, especially with the Zamasu leader. So I can take full advantage of having double life points, second health bar as I call it, and and have fun doing that. That's the funny thing is, right now I'm just mainly just experimenting and just having fun, just playing for funsies, as opposed to like truly playing competitive, because I would use my Gohan deck if I was gonna really play competitively, because I'm not going to, not that I don't want to, is that currently all I got is locals. I don't have any big events to go to yet. If I did, obviously I wouldn't use Zamasu. I would use Gohan, or Hatchiyak, ironically, is one of my competitive decks. I do have my Hatchiyak deck here at work with me right now, so I will be doing some test hands and trying to see if there's any new spice and whatnot. I do have a Hatchiyak Facebook group, so I definitely want to make sure that I come up with some new strategies. I mean, I do have some new ideas for Hatch. There's this Go tanks that I'm toying with that I'm going to build. I already started working on the concept of the deck, so I just gotta get the cards and whatnot and just start putting it together. Of course, I can just build it on Untap and test it out there. Obviously, that's an option before I actually put money into the cards. But the cards that I want for the deck are good period. They're just good cards in general, so there's no reason not to get them anyway, because I could always use them for other decks, at least if I don't ultimately use them for Hatchiyak. But they should work in Hatchiyak, because that's the idea. So it'll be interesting to try that out. There's different other things I definitely want to experiment with when it comes to Hatchiyak. Really want to fine tune mill strategy with it, right? The mill out strategy with Hatchiyak, the burn strategy with Hatchiyak, aggro. Try to do a little bit of aggro hatch, right? Try to make the deck a little bit more aggro. Well, it'll be anti-aggro, because it will be aggro while slowing my opponent's ability to be aggro. So that's that combination. Because the way you can anti-aggro a deck is by being more aggro than they are. That's one way, right? Being faster than your opponent is one way to outperform them, right? To out aggro is to be more aggro. But slowing them down, right, is another way to combat aggro, obviously, right? You either fight them with more fire, or you fight them with water, right? Fight fire with more fire, or fight fire with water, right? So there's that. So I'm trying to incorporate that in there. And that stuff will come down the line when I get around to it. Start putting that stuff out there and organizing it. I already did a lot with Boma. There's other leaders I would like to obviously play around with. Definitely like the recently I posted Shenron, Android 17. I could also do Shenron. Well, thinking about it, it's like, yeah, I should do that. That'd be a good idea, because if I'm right, I can make that happen a lot faster. It'd be a lot faster for me to use chain attack Trunks with Super Shenron and get that card out there. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna build that deck when I'm done the podcast. I'm gonna go build chain attack Trunks, Super Shenron chain attack Trunks, because I could definitely make that work relatively easy. So that's a thing. So that'd be fun to try out. And what else? There's other decks, other leaders that have some capabilities. Because some leaders are good at doing certain things, so they're good for certain strategies. It's just a matter of figuring out which one you want to use the most, which one helps you the most. For example, what's ironic, I'm using Zamasu, I'm using Shenron, right, to drop Turning Tides. I'm using Super Saiyan 4, Vegeta, the ramps, to play Super Saiyan, to play Turning the Tides. But ironically, you can get the same results, right? Or you can get more consistent results, I should say. You can more consistently get 7 energy if you were to play what's his name? If you were to play Goku Black leader, or the Super Saiyan 3 Goku, the remake one, right? So those two are actually the best for helping you drop Turning Tides, one turn early. So that's an idea, right? That's a strategy right there. So I will be doing the Super Saiyan 3 one, and I'll look into the Goku Black. They pretty much can do pretty much the same thing. We know Super Saiyan 3 Goku limit is 6 energy, but if you play Majin the Fire by Supreme Kai, she acts as the 7th energy, and that's how you can pay 7 for a Turning of the Tides. And the idea is to ideally try to drop it on turn 5, because it's not that hard to get to turn 5 or even 6 nowadays. Ironically, it's a little bit harder to get to turn 7, but not impossible. Just depends on how you play your turns. Because the idea is the less damage you take in the first 2 turns of the game, right? The less damage. So let's say you don't take damage turn 1 and turn 2. That actually gives you the ability to get to turn 7 or 8. So let me throw that little philosophy. There's a thing where it's every damage you take loses you a turn. So that's my new thing. My old thing is obviously the first 4 damage is the easiest. The next 2 requires a little bit of effort, and the last 2 is the hardest, right? My new thing is every damage is one turn less. Damn, I'm saying wrong. It's one less turn for you to lose, or one less turn for you to win, right? Because imagine if you only took 1 damage a turn, just 1 damage a turn, you're guaranteed to only take 1 damage a turn. That means at most you can take 7 damage and still be in the game, right? Because you still have 1 life. So if you're trying to get to turn 7, that means at most you can only take 1 damage a turn. If you take more than 1 damage a turn, right? Or I should say in general, if you take 7 damage before you get to turn 6, or you take 7 damage on turn 6 or something like that, right? Then the likelihood of you getting to turn 7 is very slim. Very slim. Not impossible per se. You might get lucky, but very slim. And the idea is that, because I always say the first 4 damage is the easiest, so because of that, and the reason why it's the easiest is because mostly people let themselves take the damage. Most people don't try to out-combo a leader swing. They'll be like, I swing with the leader, no negate, no combo, and the person's like, all right, I take it. When they could just combo 5k from the hand and not take the damage on the first turn, right? But they take it, and ironically, like I said, that literally is taking a turn away from from late game. You're literally losing a turn late game because of that, right? You can only negate but so much, right? You can only out combo late game but so much. So that's why it's not a good idea to take a lot of damage early game. It's a great idea to do a lot of damage early game to your opponent, but it's not a great idea to take a lot of damage early game. So you want to try to reduce as much damage as possible. You want to take 1 or less damage, right? 1 or 0. Those should be the ideal number, 1 or 0. That's why you have to, some people don't even consider that when it comes to their life, how that translates to their turn. That's why they'll just gladly take the first 4 damage and not realize. This is why it's always, turn 4 was always considered a kill turn. Most games didn't last past turn 4. The reason why is because by the time you get to turn 4, especially if you're playing against me, you're usually at 2 life. You're usually at 2 life. The likelihood of you making it to turn 5 is very slim. All I need is 1 double strike to go through. 1 double strike to go through. I already have a leader in play. I can probably play a battle card. I can overwhelm, right? I could free play, like Bodyguard Electric, for example. Like, I probably have a whole bunch of stuff I could play, a whole bunch of battle cards, and the leader I can use to try to deal the last 2 damage. So the likelihood of you getting beyond turn 4, after you took 4 damage in the beginning in the first 2 or 3 turns of the game, you know, the likelihood of you going past turn 4 is slim. That's what I'm saying. Every damage you take literally takes a turn away from you. So if you have 4 life, there's a high possibility. If you have 4 life or less, there's a high possibility you're not going to make it past turn 4. Not impossible. Don't get me wrong. Not impossible. It's just slimmer. And that's just a pattern that I've noticed, that I've seen a lot from my own experience of playing the game and from other people. I had scenarios where, like I said, you know, when I use my Gohan deck, I drop my opponent's life down to 2 or 1 life as soon as turn 1. Typically, more often than not, on turn 1, I drop them down drastically down to 2 or 1 life. You know, ideally, down to 2 or 1 life, right? But sometimes just 4 damage turn 1 is enough. And like I said, that makes it where turn 4 is typically going to be the kill turn, because I already dealt them 4 damage. So the possibility of them going past turn 4 is very slim. So one of 2 things can happen: either I win, around turn 4, or I lose, depending on the situation, right? Especially if my opponent dealt me damage. That's the important part. You know, like I said, you lose turns, so that's why it's important for you not to lose turns, aka life, and always make sure your opponent loses turn, right? This is why it's so. I'm always against the idea of taking life to activate effects or to awaken, unless I'm trying to save myself from losing in a turn, right? I'm trying to survive a turn. It makes sense to lose 1 life so I don't lose 2 instead, right? By playing sparking negates, for example, right? Or barrier blockers, or anything similar to that, right? Let's say Baby Hatchet had a cost where you had to take a life in order to play it, and still pitch a card, of course. Well, it'll be worth it if it lets you survive that turn, so you can get to your next turn to go for game. So with that in mind, if you know on average you're probably going to take 4 damage, there's a high possibility that your 5-drop finisher, right, win con, or a 6-drop win con, it's not going to be that likely of you getting to the turn to play them if you're taking, if you've taken 4 plus damage. That's why you want to take as little damage as possible. You want to reduce it to 1 damage or 0, ideally. So there's that thing, the whole life and turn correlation that most people don't take to account. Well, from what I've seen, not many people have been taking that to account. So let's see what else. I talked long enough, and this, I don't even remember what the podcast is about anymore. I just went into game theory. This is about my strategies, or the phases of different strategies. The fact that it's ironic that I'm going into every time I go into a new phase of play style and gameplay, you know, and I'm doing it before anyone else does it, then not too surprising that everybody else does it afterwards. You know, I'm always trying to be ahead of the game, and that's the whole point. That's why I got all these different concepts and ideas that I keep working on and keep trying to improve upon. And then once I have a nice solid concept, right, a nice solid strategy that I can share, then I share it. And not too surprising if people use this afterwards, because obviously I shared it for it to be used, so I'm not surprised when it does get used. But the irony is, it usually takes a long time for it to get used. Sometimes it takes a year for people to use my ideas. So, oh well, that's just life. But yeah, sometimes there, you know, it's just so funny. Just the idea of seeing this, like, yeah, I'm starting to do stuff like chain attack trunks and shit now, and then now that's, you know, that's going to become a thing. Everybody else is going to be doing it, so that's good. In this scenario, I just like to be like, good, great minds think alike, right, as they say. So I like to see that, you know, I don't have to be directly the reason why people do things, but I typically am the reason why a lot of people do things when it comes to this game, for example, or anything else. But definitely when it comes to this game, I have been ahead of the game, and other people have caught up. Most people still lacking. Most people are still behind. This is why I still get some people, you know, coming at me with the whole super combo thing, because they're still stuck on what, set 3, 4, maybe 5, right? They're stuck in those sets, right? They're still stuck in those old ways of playing the game, where they're trying to awaken first, right? And they're trying to have big hand size and use that as their win con, and try to win by attacking and dropping a whole bunch of super combos, right? That is old school, right? That's the most basic way you could play the game. And if it you know, if it works, it works. If it still works, you know, that's fine. That's great. To each their own. You know, you do you. But I'm always trying to find different ways to do stuff. I'd rather do something differently. I don't want to keep trying to rely on something, especially if it's something that's luck based. The whole, awakening early and big hand size thing, you know, that was cool at the beginning of the game, you know, because there wasn't that much, you know, there wasn't that many cheap finishers, and there wasn't that many. Turning the tides definitely didn't exist back then. So like shit like that, right? You know, burn effects. So it was very rare. I mean, besides lightning fast hit, right? But he required 5 energy for you to evolve, or you wait to turn 6 to play him, right? So there's that. But yeah, it's just the irony of people just trying to stay playing the old way instead of evolving and improving and innovating. And that's the thing, a lot of people are not innovating. So that's why when I'm innovating, you'll have somebody just come out of nowhere and be like, you know, you should do things this way, this, that, and the third. It's like, you mean do things the way people used to do things, you know, 2-3 years ago? I'm good. I'm in 2022. I want to do something different. You know, I want to do 2024 things in 2022. I want to do things from the future now, right? I want to be ahead of the game. I don't want to be behind. I don't want to be following trends, right? Doing what everybody else is doing. I want to be the trend maker, right? The leader, right? I want to be the one to do things before anyone else does, which is why I take time and effort to read cards, right? Oh shit, I read cards. Most people don't. And try to find new ways, or at least improve upon old ways, because a lot of my strategies, you know, they're old. You know, they're over a year old, right? At least 2 years old. I'm just revisiting them and, you know, just trying to bring them back, right? Trying to bring sexy back and trying to improve them, right? Try to make them better than they was before, because we have way more new cards that we have now. We have way more stuff now that we could revisit old strategies. That's why I'm not surprised when I see other people revisiting old leaders and old strategies, because I've been doing that for a long, long time. I'm always looking back in the past to see what spice and gem is back there, you know, that's been waiting, it's been patiently waiting for their time to shine and just go grab them before anyone else notices, and then starts trying to scoop it up and try to do buyouts and stuff like that, right? I want to be able to play the game, but I don't want to be broke at the same time, right? I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on cards just to either end up still losing, right? Or obviously you could win. Winning is always good, but it'd just be ridiculous to spend a lot of money and then still lose, right? And a lot of people tend to do that. They tend to spend a lot of money and still lose. So hopefully they start budgeting, especially if they have a habit of losing a lot. One, try to improve your win ratio, right? Try to win more, but also try to spend less money, right? Save some money. You don't want to lose twice, right? You don't want to lose at the game and then lose at life, right? Just because, you don't want your bank account, number to go low, to go into the negatives, while your win ratio is also going into the negatives. You don't want two L's. Just take one versus the other, right? Or at least mitigate your L's is what I'm trying to say. What else? But that's the thing, just innovate, think ahead of times. Because one of the things that always annoys me is the idea that people want to net deck, right? And that's the thing that gets promoted a lot, is the idea of net decking. And it's like, but if everybody's net decking, then who's deck building? If everybody's net decking, then no one's net decking, because there's no one building decks to copy. So what are we doing, right? Now, granted, because archetypes exist, and Bandai is creating archetypes and started structured decks and ultimate decks and stuff like that, so they're already pre-building strategies for people to play. But the best strategies tend to come from deck builders, people who can build stuff from scratch. Even the whole chain Zeno thing was something Bandai didn't want to happen. They didn't want a chain Bobbity to be a thing. The community even bitched and complained about how powerful it was. And I blame them more than anything, because they're the ones who mainly kept complaining to Bandai about the combo, and then Bandai banned it, or errata, I should say, to make the combo not viable. It still could be played. It's just not as viable as it used to be. So people just shifted from that Bobbity combo to Zeno, which, if you think about it, kind of a bit worse, right? The worse as in, we went from one evil to another, right? We went from the frying pan into the fire. But hey, I'm not complaining. I'm a Zeno fan. I typically use the 5-drop Zeno because it board wipes, and I do have the 7-drop, of course. So that's a thing. Definitely can't wait to put some more decks together. Can't wait to do some streams and stuff like that. Well, mainly can't wait to play more and record it for those who want to see gameplay. That tends to be one of the most requested thing, is people want to see me play. Fair enough. More people want to see cards in action. Fair enough. I'll try to do more of that when I get the chance. I just got a lot going on in my life, going from one location to another location. Definitely want to be able to do webcam duels. I have tons of stuff. Not going to get into all those things that I'm doing in this podcast, but look into the future. Be hopeful. It's going to be a lot more fun, a lot more excitement in the future, and a lot more knowledge and mastery to share.